A few questions from Julius Caesar. Act 3, Scene 1. The Best Guidebook, page number 363. I could be well moved if were as you. If I could pray to move, prayers would move me. But I am constant as the northern star, of whose true fixed and wrestling quality there is no fellow in the firmament. The skies are painted with unnumbered sparks. They are all fire and everyone doth shine, but there is but one in all doth hold his place. Explanation. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. Here the speaker is Caesar and he is speaking to Cassius just before his assassination. The conspirators have come to Caesar in the Senate house under the pretense of pleading for amnesty for Metellus Cimber's banished brother Publius Cimber. কি কারণে ওরা কনস্পিরেটর এসছে সিজারের কাছে সেনেট হাউসে এটা ঢং করতে আন্ডার দ্য প্রিটেন্স অফ প্লিডিং ফর অ্যামনেস্টি for Metellus Cimber's banished brother Publius Cimber. Caesar replies that he will not move from his word and not change his earlier decision. Caesar compares himself to the North Star and boasts his firmness. The waiver of his decree under any persuasion will be against his commitment to law. যদি দ্য ওয়েভার অফ হিজ ডেক্রি আন্ডার এনি পারসুয়েশন কোনো পরিস্থিতিতেই যদি সে ডেক্রিকে ব্রেক করে তাহলে ইট উইল বি অগেনস্ট দ্য কমিটমেন্ট টু ল Caesar cites the example of the North Star that helps the sailors to navigate since ancient times. Caesar কি করলো? Cites example of the North Star that helps the sailors, যেটা sailorদেরকে সাহায্য করে to navigate since ancient times. The North Star guides them in their voyages, just as Caesar leads the Roman people at the present moment. Caesar intends to say that he is only man at present in Rome who is not fickle minded like the other Roman people, and so he can lead the Romans like Polestar, who never changes its position and will act as leading guide for the Roman people. কি বলছে? Caesar intends to say that he is the only man at present in Rome যে fickle minded নয় like other Roman people, so he can lead the Romans like Polestar. সে তাই বাকি রোমানদেরকে পোলস্টার হিসেবে মানে আইডিয়াল যাতে আইডলাইজ করতে পারে সব রোমানরা তাকে দেখে সেই জন্য তাদেরকে যাতে লিড করতে পারে রোমান্সদের হু নেভার আর পোলস্টার কি হু নেভার চেঞ্জেস ইটস পজিশন অ্যাক্ট অ্যাজ আ লিডিং গাইড ফর দ্য Roman people. The North Star is unique in its fixedness. It never changes its position in the sky. In the same way, Caesar will maintain strictness in Publius Cimber's case and will not withdraw his order of banishment. Next, eat to brute, then fall. Caesar. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. These are the last words spoken by Caesar before he dies. Caesar says, "You too, Brutus," and falls to die. The statement of Caesar expresses his shock, surprise, and dismay over realizing that Brutus, his trustworthy friend, has taken part in his assassination and stabs him. This line suggests that before his death, it becomes clear to Caesar that he has been betrayed by one of his loyal friends. This line is famous as a means of declaring that one has been betrayed by his dear ones. The conspirators against Caesar are jealous of his growing power and popularity and had made a plan to kill Caesar at the Senate House. They had put up a strong reason behind Caesar's murder, that he is over ambitious and would become a dictator in near future and Rome would be under his tyranny and oppression. So Caesar had to die for the welfare of the state of Rome. After Caesar's death, one of the conspirators, Cassius, proposed to claim liberty, freedom, and equality, which he does to justify the assassination of Caesar. তো বলছে ইট টু ব্রুট দেন ফল সিজার, এই লাইনগুলো টেকেন ফ্রম জুলিয়াস সিজার। লাস্ট ওয়ার্ডস এগুলো কি না লাস্ট ওয়ার্ড স্পোকেন বাই জুলিয়াস সিজার বিফোর হি ডাইজ। Caesar says you too brute and falls to die. The statement of Caesar expresses ki na shock, surprise and dismay over realizing that Brutus, his trustworthy friend, যে Brutus যে তার মধ্যে এক্সপ্রেস সিজার এক্সপ্রেসেস কি এক্সপ্রেস করলো শক সারপ্রাইজ আর ডিসমে ওভার রিয়েলাইজিং দ্যাট ব্রুটাস his trustworthy friend has taken part in his assassination and stabs him. This line suggests that before his death it becomes clear to Caesar that he has been betrayed by one of his loyal friends. On a loyal friend দ্বারা যে betrayed হয়েছে, this line is famous as a means of declaring that one has been betrayed by his near ones. কাছের লোকই বিট্রে করে দেয় এটা বোঝা গেছে দ্য কনস্পিরেটর against Caesar are jealous of his growing power and popularity and they had made a plan to kill Caesar at the Senate House. তারা একটা প্ল্যান বানিয়েছিল সিজারকে মারবে বলে সেনেট হাউসে. They had put up a strong reason behind Caesar's murder. একটা স্ট্রং রিজন পুট আপ করেছে সিজারের মার্ডারে. হি ইজ ওভার অ্যাম্বিশিয়াস অ্যান্ড would become a dictator in near future and Rome would be under his tyranny and oppression. আর রোম টাইরানি আর অপারেশনে থাকবে. সো সিজার হ্যাড টু ডাই ফর দ্য ওয়েলফেয়ার অফ দ্য স্টেট অফ রোম. সিজারকে মারা যেতে হবে ফর দ্য ওয়েলফেয়ার অফ দ্য স্টেট অফ রোম. আফটার সিজার্স ডেথ ওয়ান অফ দ্য কনস্পিরেটর্স Cassius proposed to claim liberty, freedom and equality which he does to justify the assassination of Caesar. সিজারের ডেথের পর one of the conspirators Cassius proposed to claim liberty, যে লিবার্টি ফ্রিডম আর ইকুয়ালিটি প্রপোজ করলো টু ক্লেম which he does to justify the assassination of Caesar. মানে one of the conspirators Cassius being one of the conspirators proposed to claim liberty freedom and equality which he does to justify the assassination of Caesar. Next extract. Grant that and then in his death a benefit. So are we Caesar's friends that have abridged this time of fearing death. Stoop, Roman, stoop, and let us bathe our hands in Caesar's blood up to the elbows and besmear our swords, then walk we forth even to the marketplace. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. These lines are spoken by Brutus and he is speaking to Cassius after Caesar's assassination. Brutus, along with other conspirators, have murdered Caesar. Brutus, along with other conspirators, have murdered Caesar. Cassius says to Brutus that if a person's life is reduced by 20 years, he is spared 20 years of fearing death. Cassius says to Brutus that if a person's life is reduced by 20 years, he is spared 20 years of fearing death. মানে 20 বছর তাকে মরার ভয়ে বাঁচতে হয় না আর. He is reduced, if a person's life is reduced by 20 years, he is spared 20 years of fearing death. Brutus says in reply that death is a great blessing for Caesar because they have shortened his time duration in which Caesar could have fear of death, and so that sense they are in that sense they are the well-wishers of Caesar. Brutus also addresses the Roman people to bend down to immerse their hands in Caesar's blood up to their elbows, along with their weapons. He urges the people to go to the marketplace and wave their blood-stained weapons above their heads and shout in loud voice, proclaiming peace, freedom, liberty. Brutus addresses the Roman people to bend down to immerse their hands in Caesar's blood up to their elbows, along with their weapons. He urges the people to go to the marketplace, wave their blood-stained weapons above their head, and shout in loud voice, proclaiming peace, freedom, liberty. Next extract. O mighty Caesar, dost thou lie so low? Are all the conquests, glories, triumphs, spoils shrunk to this little measure? Fare thee well. I know not, gentlemen, what you intend. Who else must be let blood? Who else is rank? If I myself there is no hour so feet. So Caesar's death are nor no instrument of half that worth as those your source made reach. With the most noble blood of all this world, I do beseech ye, if you hear my heart, now whilst your purpled hands do rake and smoke, fulfill your pleasure, live 1,000 years, I shall not find myself so apt to die. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. The speaker is Mark Antony. And he spoke these words when he sees Caesar's dead body lying. Antony feels very much grieved on seeing mighty Caesar lying dead, as he loved Caesar very much as his friend. স্পিকার হচ্ছে মার্ক অ্যান্থনি এই কথাগুলো বলেছে সিজারের ডেড বডিকে দেখে when he sees Caesar's dead body lying, মার্ক অ্যান্থনি ফিল করছে very much grieved on seeing mighty Caesar lying dead. mighty Caesarকে lying dead দেখে অ্যান্থনি feels very much grieved as he loved Caesar very much as his friend. He says that Caesar, the mighty general who had towered above mankind, was now lying so low in the ground. The mighty Caesar, who had towered above mankind, was lying so low on the ground. He wants to know, he wanted to know if all the glorious conquests, honors, and all magnificent trophies which had been brought from all corners, his victorious entries into Rome and triumphs in war, had been turned to dust. ও বলছে যে ও জানতে চায় এই যে he wanted to know if all the glorious conquests, যে যত glorious conquest, honor, all magnificent trophies which had been brought from all corners, his victorious entries into Rome and triumphs in war, had been turned to dust. He bids farewell to his beloved friend. He asks Caesar's dead body, or had all his achievements shrunk to only a small piece of land on which Caesar's dead body was lying dead at that time. Oh, Caesar's dead body কে জিজ্ঞেস করছে had all achievements shrunk to only a small piece of land on which Caesar's dead body was lying dead at that time. This shows Antony's love and respect for his departed friend and his grief at Caesar's death. He asks Caesar's dead body had all he asks Caesar's dead body that Caesar had all achievements, that had all the achievements shrunk to only a small piece of land on which Caesar's body was lying dead at that time. যে যত সিজারের অ্যাচিভমেন্ট আছে সেগুলো কি shrunk to only a small piece of land যেইটার উপর সিজারের dead body was lying dead at that time. This shows Antony's love and respect for his departed friend and his grief at Caesar's death. He says he has no idea as to what his present intentions are. He is in complete darkness that who such an honorable man like Caesar could be killed. How such an honorable man? He says he has no idea as to what his present intentions are. He is in complete darkness that how such an honorable man like Caesar could be killed. He presumed that he has killed Caesar has that whoever has killed Caesar has attained too much influence and glory. এটার মানে দাঁড়ায়নি. He continues to say in his grief, in grief to Brutus, that if he has been selected as a next victim of death, if he is being selected as the next victim of death, there could be no better time for it than the hour of Caesar's death. No weapons could be more appropriate. বলছে যদি তাকে মারার ইচ্ছে হয় তাহলে there could be no better time for that hour for it than the hour of Caesar's death. And no weapons could be more appropriate for accomplishing the purpose than the swords which have killed Caesar and have been because the swords have been made valuable by the blood of the noblest man in this world. He requests to Brutus that if he has any grudge against him, he can have intentions against me immediately and kill me at his hands are still kill me at his those hands are still warm with the blood of Caesar. মানে সেই হাত দিয়ে আমাকে মারো, to kill him immediately with those hands that was still warm with the blood of Caesar. Even if he were to live for thousands years, he shall never be prepared to meet death than that particular moment of noble Caesar's death, as it will be an honor for him to die dead by the side of Caesar's dead body, as Caesar, the noblest and most influential man of Rome. Next extract. O Antony, beg not your death of us, though now we must appear bloody and cruel, as by our hands and this our present act you see we do, yet see you but our hands, and this the bleeding business they have done. Our hearts you see not, they are pitiful, and pity to the general wrong of Rome, as fire drives out fire, so pity hath done this deed on Caesar. For your part, to your swords have laden points, Mark Antony, our arms in strength of malice, and our hearts of brothers tempered do receive you in with all kind love, good thoughts, and reverence. Your voice shall be as strong as any man's in the disposing of new dignitaries. So these lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. The speaker here is Brutus, and he's speaking to Mark Antony. When Antony saw Caesar's lifeless body lying on the ground, he became so sad, and with profound grief he requested the conspirators to kill him with that sword with which they had killed Caesar few moments ago. He felt most to die at the time and at the place, and as he in the same place where Caesar's cadaver was lying, and he loved Caesar very much and considered it to be an honor to die with Caesar. But Brutus requested him not to urge them to kill him, as Antony was not their enemy. Brutus tried to console Antony by saying that they were not bloodthirsty and cruel. He told Antony that he could see their blood-stained hands and act of murder which they had committed, but he could not see their hearts. Brutus assures Antony on behalf of all the conspirators that their hearts were full of pity, and they felt this pity for the suffering of Roman citizens. Brutus tried to impress Antony by saying that the common citizens of Rome had suffered much hardship and oppression under Caesar's rule of tyranny. The conspirators had no choice than to kill Caesar, as they could not bear the hardships of common people. Brutus justifies their act of assassinating Caesar by telling Antony that their pity for Roman people had killed all their considerations for Caesar. Their pity for Roman people had killed all their consideration for Caesar, just like the one fire that extinguishes another. In order to do their duty towards the Roman people, they had to kill Caesar. The conspirators had no intention to harm Mark Antony because they considered him as their fellow friend and brother who deserved all respect. Brutus justifies their act of assassinating Caesar by telling Antony that their pity for Roman people had killed all their considerations for Caesar, just like one fire that extinguishes another. In order to do their duty towards Roman people, they had to kill Caesar. The conspirators had no intention to harm Mark Antony because they considered him as their fellow friend and brother who deserved all respect. Next extract, most noble in the presence of thy corpse. Next extract, most noble in the presence of thy corpse. Had I as many eyes as thou hast wounds, weeping as fast as they stream forth thy blood, it would become me better than to close in terms of friendship with thy enemies. Pardon me, Julius. Here wast thou bade brave heart. Here didst thou fall, and here my any hunter stand. signed in thy spoil and crimsoned in thy lethe. O world, thou wast the forest to this heart, and this indeed, O world, the heart of thee. How like a deer stricken by many princes dost thou here lie? These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. The speaker is Antony, and he begs pardon to Caesar's dead body in the presence of the conspirators. At this moment, Antony is feeling grieved at the murder of Caesar. He had deliberately shaken hands with the conspirators and had addressed them with friendliness so that he could take the revenge of Caesar's death in a suitable time. But he is very sad deep inside his heart for his behaving in such soft and friendly manners with the conspirators who had assassinated Caesar. Speaker হচ্ছে অ্যান্টনি, he begs pardon to Caesar's body in presence of the conspirators. ও কি বলছে, at this moment Antony is feeling grieved at the murder of Caesar. He had deliberately shaken hands with the conspirators, জেনে বুঝেই ও কনস্পিরেটরদের সাথে হাত মিলিয়েছে, and had addressed them with friendliness, এবং তাদেরকে friendliness দিয়ে অ্যাড্রেস করেছে, so that he could take the revenge of Caesar's death in the suitable time, যাতে সে সিজারের ডেথের revenge নিতে পারে, but he is very sad deep inside his heart for his behaving in such soft and friendly manners with the conspirators who had assisted Caesar. কিন্তু তার যথেষ্ট দুঃখ আছে এত সফট আর ফ্রেন্ডলি ম্যানারে কনস্পিরেটরদের সাথে ডিল করেছে বলে, who assassinated Caesar. Antony pays for Caesar's forgiveness and calls him noble. He says that Caesar is a brave deer who was cornered in order to be killed by the conspirators, like the hunter. The conspirators actually behaved like hunters. A hunter kills a deer, stabs a deer in the same way. Caesar has been stabbed by the conspirators. Now Caesar is lying dead and his murderers are standing surrounding his body. The world was like a forest where Caesar had roamed about freely as a deer. And now his dead body lies there, which resembles the dead body of a young deer that has been hunted by some honorable man of Rome. Next extract. Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of art, that I am meek and gentle with his butchers. Thou art the ruins of noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. O to the hand that shed this costly blood. Over thy wounds now I do prophecy, which like dumb mouths do ope their rubby lips, to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men, domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. These lines are soliloquy of Antony. He speaks them over the dead body of Caesar. Caesar has been murdered by Brutus and by other conspirators. Antony acts tactfully and cleverly, extends his hand of friendship to the conspirators and win their confidence. They trusted Antony and allows them to make all the necessary arrangements for the funeral ceremony of Caesar and permits him to deliver a funeral speech. Antony pays a tribute to Caesar's body and begs his forgiveness for being humble with his murderers. Antony sees that Caesar is one of the noblest men in art. Destruction is about to happen to those persons who have shed Caesar's precious blood. The wounds of Caesar seemed to appeal to him, to his voice, and to speak on their behalf. Antony solemnly predicts that before the wounds of Caesar, that uh, that a curse shall fall on mankind in the form of disease, and a civil war would furious civil war would break out, which would destroy the life of the people. Antony shows this desperation to rouse the Romans into rebellion against the conspirator, which indicates the breakout of a civil war in Italy. তো এই লাইনটা সিজার এই কথাগুলো দিস লাইনস আর soliloquy of অ্যান্টনি হি স্পিক্স দেম ওভার দ্য ডেড বডি অফ সিজার সিজারকে মার্ডার করে দিয়েছে সিজার হ্যাজ বিন মার্ডার্ড বাই ব্রুটাস অ্যান্ড অল দ্য কনস্পিরেটর্স অ্যান্টনি acts tactfully and cleverly and extends his hand of friendship to the conspirators tactfully আর cleverly ওর হাত মানে এক্সটেন্ড করছে friendship to the conspirators and win their confidence. They trusted Antony and allows him to make all the necessary arrangements for funeral ceremony. তারা অ্যান্টনিকে বিশ্বাস করছে আর তাদেরকে necessary arrangement করছে funeral ceremony of Caesar and permit him to deliver a funeral speech এবং একটা funeral speech deliver করতে বলছে এই যো and permits him আচ্ছা অ্যান্টনি এই যো they trusted Antony and allowed him to make all necessary arrangements for funeral ceremony of Caesar কনস্পিরেটররা অ্যান্টনিকে ট্রাস্ট করে সব funeral ceremony necessary arrangement করতে বলেছে সিজারের funeral ceremony বলতে এবং permitted him to deliver a funeral speech এবং তাকে পারমিটও করেছে একটা funeral speech deliver করতে অ্যান্টনি paid a tribute to Caesar's dead body অ্যান্টনি ট্রিবিউট দিল সিজারের ডেড বডিকে begged for forgiveness for being humble with his murderers এবং অ্যান্টনি যে তার মার্ডারদের সাথে হামলি বিহেভ করছিল ট্যাক্টফুলি যে ডিল করছিল সেটার জন্য সে ফরগিভনেস চাইলো অ্যান্টনি says that Caesar is one of the noblest man in said that Caesar was one of the noblest man in earth destruction was about to happen to those people who had shed Caesar's precious blood এটাও বললো যে destruction তাদের অনিবার্য যারা সিজারের ব্লাডকে শেড করেছে দ্য wounds of Caesar seemed to appeal to him wound of Caesar মনে হলো যেন তাকে অ্যাপিল করছে to use his voice and to speak on their behalf যাতে অ্যান্টনি তার আওয়াজ মানে ভয়েস ব্যবহার করে তাদের মানে অন দেয়ার বিহাফ তাদের বদলে woundগুলোর বদলে কথা বলে Antony solemnly predicts before the wounds of Caesar that curse shall fall on mankind in the form of a disease and a furious civil war would break out which would destroy the life of the people. কার্স মানুষের উপর পড়বে ডিজিজ ইন দ্য ফর্ম অফ ডিজিজ আর একটা ফিউরিয়াস সিভিল ওয়ার ব্রেকআউট করবে যেটা ডেস্ট্রয় করবে মানুষকে অ্যান্টনি শোজ দিস ডেসপারেশন টু রাউজ এই টাইপের ডেসপারেশন দেখালো টু রাউজ দ্য রোম্যান্স ইনটু রেবেলিয়ান अगेंस्ट দ্য কনস্পিরেটর্স হুইচ ইন্ডিকেটস দ্য ব্রেকআউট অফ আ সিভিল ওয়ার ইন ইটালি এবং এটা থেকে বোঝা যাচ্ছে যে এরপর ইটালিতে সিভিল ওয়ার হবে এবার অ্যাক্ট 3 সিন 2 Be patient till the last, Romans, countrymen, and lovers. Hear me for my cause and be silent, that you may hear, believe me for mine honor and have respect to mine honor, that you may believe. Censor me in your wisdom and awake your senses, that you may be better judge. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love for Caesar was no less than this. He, if then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves, than that Caesar were dead to live all free men? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. The speaker here is Brutus and is speaking to the citizens of Rome. Already Brutus and other conspirators had murdered Caesar. The public of Rome were in a state of restlessness under Caesar after Caesar's assassination, and they demanded an explanation for the cause of Caesar's murder. Brutus addressed the crowd and delivered a speech to the public who had gathered outside the Capitol. Brutus requested the Romans to have full faith in the conspirators. Already Brutus and other conspirators had murdered Caesar already মেরে দিয়েছে public of Rome was in a state of unrest সমস্ত রোমের লোক আনরেস্ট আর মানে আটার কনফিউশন ডিসঅর্ডার After Caesar's assassination, and they demanded an explanation for the cause of Caesar's murder. Explanation childhood Brutus এর কাছে cause of Caesar's murder. Brutus addressed the crowd and delivered a speech to the public who had gathered outside the Capitol. Brutus at a speech deliver করলো outside the Capitol দাঁড়িয়ে পাবলিকের উদ্দেশ্যে। Brutus requested the Romans to have full faith in the conspirators. রোমান্সদের বুকে বললো কনস্পিরেটরদের উপর ভরসা রাখতে। He requested the public to judge them wisely. পাবলিককে বললো যে তাদেরকে যেন জাজ করা হয় ওয়াইজলি অ্যাজ হি উইল জাস্টিফাইড উইথ লজিক দ্য রিজনস বিহাইন্ড সিজার অ্যাসাসিনেশন, এবং বললো যে সে যথেষ্ট লজিক দেবে সিজারকে কেন মেরেছে। ইনফর্ম দ্য পাবলিক দ্যাট হি ইজ অ্যাফ্রেড অফ সিজার অ্যান্ড লাভড হিম। হি ইজ দ্য ফ্রেন্ড অফ সিজার, সরি, ও পাবলিককে বললো যে সে সিজারের বন্ধু এবং তাকে ভালোবাসতো যে, অ্যান্ড হি ওয়েন্ট আগেনস্ট হিম বিকজ হিজ লাভ ফর দ্য সিটিজেন্স অফ রোম ওয়াজ মোর দ্যান হিজ লাভ ফর সিজার, কারণ তার রোমের প্রতি ভালোবাসা বেশি ছিল সিজারের প্রতি ভালোবাসার চেয়ে। He said in his speech that if Caesar continued to rule Rome, the Roman citizens would have to spend their life like slaves. তো যদি সিজার বেঁচে থাকতো তাহলে রুল করতে থাকতো রোমকে, তাহলে রোমান সিটিজেনকে তাদের স্লেভের মতো বাঁচতে হতো, as Caesar was a dictator. Now after Caesar's death they could live freely. He asked the citizens that they could spend their lives মানে ask the citizens that whether they could spend their lives under the reign of a dictator or live freely like uh, মানে live their lives freely. If Caesar would be alive, he would have made the citizens slaves under him, and would they like to remain slaves under ally Caesar, or they would love to lead a free life after Caesar's assassination? In this eulogy for Caesar, EULOGY, Brutus convinced the Roman citizens that he took part in the conspiracy because he was worried about Caesar's increasing power and authority, which could be dangerous for Rome's future. He admitted that he betrayed his friend, but he did so because he loved Rome more than he loved Caesar. In this way, Brutus delivered an honest eulogy that projected his idealism or governing over Rome. Next extract. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, and so they all honourable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was a friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2. The speaker here is Antony, and he addresses the citizens of Rome in funeral speech of Caesar. Caesar has been assassinated by the conspirators. Antony is deeply grieved by Caesar's murder, but he remains friendly with the conspirators because he had to win their trust in order to take revenge upon Caesar's death. Brutus allowed him to speak to the Roman citizens on the funeral ceremony of Caesar, as he believed that Antony was on their side, and he would not at all become harmful for them. In this platform, Antony spoke to the Roman citizens with the intention of inciting the people against the assassinators of Caesar. Intention of inciting the people against the assassination of Caesar. Antony, while delivering his funeral speech, told the Roman citizens that he had come to perform the funeral rites of Caesar and not to praise him for his noble and great deeds. He continued to say that evil deeds of persons are remembered even after their death. The good and noble deeds of great persons are generally forgotten by the world soon after he dies and is buried along with their body in the graves. Likewise, Caesar's good and noble deeds should also be forgotten by the world as he was no more and his lifeless body was lying there. Antony's motto was to bring out the evil motives of the conspirators who had killed Caesar out of jealousy to gain political power, and for that he used simple words while addressing the people of Rome. In this speech, Antony aroused the emotions of Roman people for Caesar. Antony burst into tears while giving his speech so that it would appeal to the people of Rome. He showed them the bleeding wounds in Caesar's body to bring out the cruelty of the conspirators and to prove his point that Brutus was not at all an honorable person whom people of Rome would believe. Anthony wanted to kindle the light of rebellion. Anthony wanted to kindle the light of rebellion into the Roman people's heart against the conspirators of Caesar who had killed him mercilessly, and Antony became successful in his mission. As after his funeral speech, the Roman citizens revolted against the conspirators. Next extract. But yesterday the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now lies he there, and none so poor to do him reverence. O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honorable men. I'll not do them wrong. I rather chose to wrong the deed to wrong myself and you. Then I'll wrong such honorable men. But here is a parchment with the seal of Caesar. I found it in his closet. It is his will. Let but the commons hear his testament, which pardon me, I do not mean to read, and they would go and kiss dear Caesar's wounds and dip their napkins in his sacred blood. Yea, beg, hear of him for memory, and dying mention it within their wills, bequeathing it with a rich legacy unto their issue. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar from Act 3, Scene 2. Here the speaker is Antony and he is speaking to the citizens of Rome. He is at the funeral he has come for the funeral rites of Caesar at this moment. He is extremely grieved at the murder of his friend Caesar, and his eyes have become fiery red due to constant weeping which has been observed by the Roman citizens. Antony says to the citizens of Rome that it was only a day before when Caesar's word was regarded as law throughout the world. এই একদিন আগে সিজারের কথাকে ল মনে করা হতো গোটা পৃথিবীর দ্বারা। এই যে Antony says to the citizens of Rome that it was only a day before that Caesar's word was regarded as law throughout the world. But today, unfortunately, he is dead in his coffin and there is no one to hear his commands. He addresses the citizens as dear fellow citizens of Rome and continues his speech. He says that he has the intention of exciting the feelings to rouse them to a rebellion against the conspirators. He would be doing an injustice to Brutus and Cassius, who are known as noble and honorable, and they shall never suffer such an injustice. So বলছে যে ওর intention নয়, he did not have the intention of exciting the feelings to rouse them into rebellion against the conspirators. আমি একদমই তোমাদেরকে কনস্পিরেটরদের বিরুদ্ধে রাউজ করতে চাই না। He did not have the intention of exciting the feelings to of the people to rouse them into rebellion against the conspirators. He would be doing, if he would do this, he would be doing an injustice to Brutus and Cassius, who are known as noble and honorable men. They shall never suffer such an injustice. You would much rather be just to Caesar, to himself and Roman citizens than to those who are such honorable persons. একটু কন্ট্রাডিক্টরি হয়ে গেছে, এটা দেখতে হবে একবার। Informs the Roman citizens that he got Caesar's last will and testament, which bears Caesar's seal, on which instructions have been given for the disposal of his property. বলছে ও দেখেছে সিজারের লাস্ট উইল অ্যান্ড টেস্টামেন্ট which bears Caesar's seal, মানে SEAL, seal, হলমার্ক দেওয়া আছে, on which instructions have been given for the disposal of his property, তার প্রপার্টি কিভাবে দান করবে সেগুলো লেখা আছে। He doesn't have any intention of reading out it without it before them, কোনো ইচ্ছেও নেই পড়ার, but if the citizens come to know about his contents, they would come and kiss the wounds in Caesar's body, কিন্তু যদি তারা জানতে পারে যে তাতে কি লেখা আছে, তাহলে তারা সিজারের বডিকে কিস করবে, and would immerse their handkerchiefs in Caesar's precious blood, এবং তারা হ্যাঙ্কারচিফ ডোবাবে সিজারের প্রেশাস ব্লাডে। The citizens would regard themselves as fortunate if they would obtain a single hair from his head. সিটিজেনরা ফরচুনেট নিজেদেরকে মনে করবে যদি তারা একটা হেয়ার তার মাথার থেকে নিতে পারে, from his head, and preserved it as a sacred memorial of mighty Caesar, এবং তারা মাইটি সিজারের মেমোরিয়াল হিসেবে যদি রাখতে পারে। And they when they die they would mention in their wills that they have left Caesar's hair to their legal heirs as it like a priceless possession. তাহলে they would mention in their wills that they have left Caesar's hair to their legal heirs, মানে সিজারের চুল তাদের লিগাল এয়ারদের জন্য রেখে যাবে as like a priceless possession হিসেবে। Antony had said all this to the citizens of Rome in his speech to glorify Caesar's greatness. এইসব বলেছে স্পিচে সিজারের গ্রেটনেসকে গ্লোরিফাই করতে দিয়ে, and his intention মানে করার জন্য, and his intention was to make the citizens realize that they had lost a great and noble leader, তাদেরকে রিয়েলাইজ করাতে যে তারা একটা গ্রেট আর নোবেল লিডারকে লুজ করিয়েছে, who is selfless, disclaiming the claims of the conspirators, যারা সেলফলেস তারা যেন selfless, disclaiming the claim, who had projected Caesar as a dictator of Rome, যারা ডিক্টেটর অফ রোম বলে সিজারকে প্রজেক্ট করেছে। Next, mark how the blood of Caesar followed it, as rushing out of doors to be resolved. If Brutus so unkindly knocked or not, for Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel, judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude more strong than traitor's arms quite vanished him, then burst his mighty heart, and in his mantle muffling up his face, even at the base of Pompey's status, which all the while ran blood, great Caesar fell. Oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen! Then I and you and all of us fell down, whilst bloody treason flourished over us. Oh, now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. These are gracious drops. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Here, the speaker is Mark Antony, and he is speaking to the Roman citizens. He addresses the citizens and tries to motivate them to break into rebellion against the conspirators who had assassinated his friend Caesar. Mark Antony urges the Roman citizens to see how the blood of Caesar gushed forth as Brutus withdrew his dagger from his body, and the hole made by Cassius and Casca as they stabbed Caesar. বলছে here the speaker is Mark Anthony, আর ও স্পিকিং টু রোমান সিটিজেন্স। কি বলছে? হি অ্যাড্রেসেস দ্য সিটিজেন্স অ্যান্ড ট্রাইস টু মোটিভেট দেম টু ব্রেক ইনটু লেবেলিয়ান अगेंस्ट দ্য কনস্পিরেটর্স। মোটিভেট করার চেষ্টা করছে টু ব্রেক ইনটু লেবেলিয়ান अगेंस्ट দ্য কনস্পিরেটর্স হু হ্যাড অ্যাসাসিনেটেড হিজ গ্রেট ফ্রেন্ড সিজার। এবার মার্ক অ্যান্থনি আর্জেস দ্য রোমান সিটিজেন্স টু সি হাউ দ্য ব্লাড অফ সিজার গাস্ট ফোর্থ as Brutus withdrew his dagger from his body. কিরম ভাবে ব্লাড বেরিয়েছে গাস্ট ফোর্থ, যখন কিভাবে ও দেখাচ্ছে রোমান সিটিজেনকে, আর্জেস দ্য রোমান সিটিজেন্স টু সি, আর্জ করছে রোমান সিটিজেনকে দেখাচ্ছে, আর্জ করছে যে তারা যাতে দেখে হাউ সিজার, the blood of Caesar gushed forth as Brutus withdrew his dagger from his body. Brutus যখন তার ডেগারটা শরীর থেকে বার করে নিয়েছেন, hole made by Cassius and Casca as they stabbed Caesar. Mark Antony urges the Roman citizens to see how the blood of Caesar gushed forth as Brutus withdrew his daggers from his body, and the hole made by Cassius and Casca as they stabbed Caesar. He also urged them to see the hole made by Cassius and Casca when they stabbed Caesar. Caesar loved all of them and had trusted them. He adds that the wound made by Brutus was the most heartless, as he was the most trusted friend of Brutus. When Caesar saw Brutus among the attackers, he received an immense emotional shock. যখন সিজার ব্রুটাসকে দেখেছিল বাকি অ্যাটাকারদের মধ্যে, তখন সে ইমেন্স শক পেয়েছিল, which was more deadly than the blow of his weapon and stab of the other conspirators, যেটা আরো বেশি ডেডলি ছিল than the blow of the weapon, মানে blow of Brutus's weapon and stab of other conspirator. ব্রুটাসের ব্লো আর বাকি কনস্পিরেটরের স্ট্যাবের থেকে এটা অনেক বড় ছিল. as a result of Caesar's heart broke down and he covered his face with cloak, fell down at the foot of Pompey's statue. সিজারের হার্ট ব্রেকডাউন করলো, হি কাভার্ড হিজ ফেস উইথ হিজ ক্লোক, ফেল ডাউন কাভার করলো ফেস, ক্লোক পড়ে গেল অ্যাট দ্য ফুট অফ পম্পি স্ট্যাচু, এবং পম্পি স্ট্যাচুর কাছে পড়ে গেল, অ্যান্ড ডাই হোয়াইল ব্লাড ফ্লোড ফ্রম হিজ বডি, এবং পড়ে গেল, ব্লাড তার শরীর থেকে বেরোতে লাগলো. দেন আগেইন অ্যান্টনি অ্যাড্রেসড হিজ কান্ট্রিমেন এন্ড সেড দ্যাট আ গ্রেট ডিজাস্টার হ্যাভ কাম টু দেম উইথ সিজার্স ফল. একটা সাংঘাতিক ডিজাস্টার এসছে সিজারের ফলের সাথে সাথে. দ্য কনস্পিরেটর্স হি হিমসেলফ অ্যাজ ওয়েল অ্যাজ দ্য সিটিজেন্স আর রেসপন্সিবল ফর ইট. কনস্পিরেটর্স সে নিজে আর সিটিজেনরা সবাই রেসপন্সিবল এটার জন্য. The above lines show how powerful was Antony's funeral speech. কত পাওয়ারফুল ছিল অ্যান্টনির funeral speech. Antony observed the tears in the citizens' eye, which had made him to believe that their hearts are also moved with pity. যে টিয়ার্স সিটিজেনের আইতে পেতো আর বিলিভ করতো যে হার্ট was moved to pity for Caesar, and he was sure that the citizens would definitely move into rebellion. জানতো যে সিটিজেনরা অবশ্যই রেবেলিয়নে যাবে against the conspirators of Caesar. এবার অ্যাক্ট 4 সিন 1. So is my horse Octavius, and for that I do appoint him store of provender. It is a creature that I teach to fight, to wind, to stop, to run directly on. His corporal motion governed by my spirit, and in some taste is Lepidus, but so he must be taught and trained and bid go forth, a barren spirited fellow, one that feeds on objects, arts, and imitations, which out of these and stilled by another man, begin his fashion, do not talk of him, but as a property. And now Octavius, listen great things. Brutus and Cassius are living powers, we must straight make day head. Therefore, let our alliance become mind. These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. The speaker is Antony here, and is speaking to Octavius and makes remarks about Lepidus. They wish to form the second triumvirate together. They wish to form the second triumvirate together to rule Rome. Lepidus had been sent to Caesar's residence to bring his will, and Antony speaks in the absence of Octavius. এই লাইনটা অ্যাক্ট 4 সিন 1 থেকে নেওয়া হয়েছে. জুলিয়াস সিজারের দ্য স্পিকার হচ্ছে অ্যান্টনি, অ্যান্ড হি স্পিকিং টু অক্টেভিয়াস, অক্টেভিয়াসকে বলছে, and makes remarks about Lepidus. লেপিডাসের ব্যাপারে কথা বলছে. দে উইশ টু ফর্ম দ্য সেকেন্ড ট্রায়ামভিরেট, আর একটা সেকেন্ড ট্রায়ামভিরেট বানাবে বলছে, টুগেদার টু রুল রোম. লেপিডাস হ্যাড বিন সেন্ট টু সিজার্স রেসিডেন্স, লেপিডাসকে সিজারের রেসিডেন্সে পাঠানো হয়েছে, টু ব্রিং দ্য উইল, একটা উইল আনতে. অ্যান্টনি স্পিক্স in his absence to Octavius, Antony ওই লেপিডাসের অ্যাবসেন্সে কথা বলছে অক্টেভিয়াসের সাথে। অ্যান্টনি কম্পেয়ার্স লেপিডাস টু আ হর্স। অ্যান্টনি লেপিডাসকে হর্সের সাথে কম্পেয়ার করছে, দ্যাট মাস্ট বি ট্রেন টু অ্যাক্ট অ্যাকর্ডিং টু হিজ ওনার্স ডিসিশন, যার কাজ হচ্ছে ওনারের ডিসিশন অনুযায়ী চলা। অ্যান্টনি হিয়ার devalues Lepidus as their political ally, and at the same time he sees him as a loyal military general, which is an important position in Roman administration. এটা ভীষণ important. Antony here devalues Lepidus as their political ally, মানে ওর সাথে political ally হতে পারে না, alliance হতে পারে না। At the same time he sees him as a loyal military general, কিন্তু তাকে একটা লয়াল মিলিটারি জেনারেল হিসেবে দেখছে, which is an important position in Roman administration. But Antony and Octavius are preparing a list of their enemies. Antony আর Octavius একটা এনিমির লিস্ট প্রিপেয়ার করছে, who are to be punished for the crime of assassinating Caesar, যাদেরকে পানিশ করা উচিত সিজারের অ্যাসাসিনেশনের জন্য। অ্যান্টনি সেজ টু অক্টেভিয়াস দ্যাট হিজ হর্স হ্যাজ proved to be faithful, যে বলেছে যে তার হর্সটা ফেইথফুল, বিকজ অফ দিস হি হ্যাজ অলওয়েজ সাপ্লাইড ইট উইথ প্লেন্টিফুল ফুড। তো হর্সটাকে মানে হি ইজ কম্পেয়ারিং, বা অ্যান্টনি অক্টেভিয়াসকে বলছে যে এই লেপিডাসটা একটা হর্সের মতো, যাকে যথেষ্ট খাবার দাবার দিয়ে পোষা হয়েছে, কারণ সে ফেইথফুল। দ্য হর্স টার্নস অর হল্টস অ্যাকর্ডিং টু হিজ কমান্ড, এই লেপিডাস হর্সটা তার কমান্ড অনুযায়ী দাঁড়ায়। অ্যান্টনি বলছে, he says that in many ways Lepidus is similar to his horse, as he also needs a master to direct him at every step, so is Lepidus। যেমন একটা হর্সকে প্রত্যেকটা স্টেপে মানে কন্ট্রোল করতে হয়, সেমনি লেপিডাস ইজ নট কেপেবল অফ ডুইং এনিথিং অন হিজ ওন ইনিশিয়েটিভ অর আইডিয়াস, কোনো কিছু একা একা করতে পারে না, সব কিছুর জন্যই মাস্টার দরকার হয়। So they should consider him as an instrument which they use for a certain period of time for accomplishing a particular purpose। তাই একটা ইনস্ট্রুমেন্ট হিসেবে ব্যবহার করা উচিত একটা সার্টেন পিরিয়ড অফ টাইমের জন্য, পারপাস অ্যাকমপ্লিশ করার জন্য। মার্ক অ্যান্থনি দেন সেজ টু অক্টেভিয়াস দ্যাট Cassius and Brutus have collected a large army। মার্ক অ্যান্থনি অক্টেভিয়াসকে বললো যে কেশিয়াস অ্যান্ড ব্রুটাস একটা লার্জ আর্মি কালেক্ট করেছে, ইট ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট টু শো দেম আ বোল্ড ফ্রন্ট, একটা বোল্ড ফ্রন্ট দেখানো উচিত। হি সাজেস্টেড দ্যাট দে শুড ইউনাইট টুগেদার দেয়ার ফ্রেন্ডস টু ইউটিলাইজ দেম টু দেয়ার বেস্ট অ্যাডভান্টেজ। কি বলছে? দ্যাট দে শুড ইউনাইট টুগেদার অ্যাজ ফ্রেন্ডস, তাদের একসাথে। Mark Antony says to Octavius that Cassius and Brutus have collected a large army and it is important to show them a bold front। Cassius আর Brutus একটা বড় আর্মি ফর্ম করেছে, আর তাদেরকে এবার একটা শিক্ষা দেওয়ার দরকার আছে। Suggested that they should unite together they are friends to utilize them to their best advantage and this should be done as early as possible। তাই ও বললো আমাদের সব বন্ধুদেরকে একত্রিত করে এরপরে অ্যাডভান্টেজ ইউটিলাইজ দেম টু দেয়ার বেস্ট অ্যাডভান্টেজ and this should be done at the earliest। Anthony also suggests to take the best measures for finding out any conspiracy, কোনো কনস্পিরেসি চলছে কিনা সেটারও খোঁজ নিতে বললো, which might be going against them, তাদের বিরুদ্ধে যেটা চলছে। The most effective way to overcome the dangers around them on all sides, এটাই সব থেকে এফেক্টিভ হয়ে হবে সব ডেঞ্জারের হাত থেকে বাঁচার জন্য যেগুলো তাদের চারদিকে আছে। Act 4 Scene 2, thou hast described a hot friend cooling over every note, Lucilius, when love begins to sicken and decay, it useth an enforced ceremony. There are no tricks in plain and multiple faith, but hollow men like horses nor hot at hand. Act 4 Scene 2, make gallant show and promise of their mettle, but when they should endure their bloody spar, they fall their crests and like deceitful jades, These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar from Act 4, Scene 2. The speaker is Brutus and speaking to Lucilius before his tent in the camp near Sardis. এটা হচ্ছে স্পিকার ব্রুটাস আর সে লুসিলিয়াসের সাথে কথা বলছে টেন্টের বাইরে একটা ক্যাম্প নিয়ার সার্ডিসে in the camp near Sardis. The war is about to begin between Octavius' forces and the conspirators. Brutus had sent one of his trusted men, Lucilius, to Cassius to borrow some money in order to pay his soldiers. Lucilius arrives at the scene and informs Brutus that he gets a cold reception from Cassius, that he got a cold reception from Cassius. মানে Cassius টাকা পয়সা দেয়নি, এটা টাকা আনতে পাঠিয়েছিল লুসিলিয়াসকে। He is received with politeness and courtesy, but all those are only formal expressions of love, but no sincerity and intimacy with Cassius, which Cassius used to show previously. Okay, receive করেছে with politeness and courtesy, কিন্তু কোনো but that was only the formal expression of love. There was no sincerity and intimacy which Cassius used to show before previously. After no intensity or intimacy or sincerity was there which Cassius used to show previously. After hearing Lucilius's version and experience, Brutus feels that Cassius's friendship for him was cooling. Brutus told Lucilius that when love gradually dies, people become more formal. The sincere and genuine friends does not use sweet words which are only artificial display. Sincere আর genuine friend কখনোই sweet word ব্যবহার করে না, উম, which are artificial display. এগুলো আর্টিফিশিয়াল ডিসপ্লে, তাই তারা কখনো ব্যবহার করে না। ব্রুটাস টেলস লুসিলিয়াস when love gradually dies, people become more formal. The sincere and genuine friends do not use sweet words which are only artificial display. He compares such friends with a horse of an inferior breed. যারা মানে ফ্ল্যাটার হয় তাদেরকে হর্সের সাথে তুলনা করলো ইনফিরিয়ার ব্রিডের। He says when one lead such horses by the hand, they are restless and seem energetic. বলছে যখন এই ধরনের হর্সকে তারা লিড করে তারা রেস্টলেস আর এনার্জেটিক হয়ে ওঠে, বাট ওয়েন অ্যাকচুয়ালি রাইড দেম অ্যান্ড ডিগ ওয়ান স্পার্স ইনটু দেম দে ডু নট রেসপন্ড। কিন্তু যখন তাদের উপর ঘোড়াগুলোর উপর চাপা হয় তখন তারা ঠিক মতো কিন্তু দৌড়োয় না, অ্যান্ড ড্রুপ দেয়ার হেডস, তখন মাথা নুইয়ে দেয়, লাইক ওয়ার্থলেস অ্যানিমালস, which indicate clearly that their friendship and emotions are fake and they will worn out one day. তাদের Brutus thinks that Cassius has now become like those worthless horses. Cassius এখন সেই worthless হর্সগুলোর মতো হয়ে গেছে, and he fails to show his affection as before, আর আগের মতো affection দেখাচ্ছে না, and this critical moment when the war is impending has failed to prove his genuine friendship towards him. যখন যুদ্ধ সামনে আছে তখন সে তার জেনুইন ফ্রেন্ডশিপ দেখাতে চাইছে না। Act 4, Scene 3. Did not great Julius bleed for justice' sake? What villain touched his body that did stab? And so for justice, and not for justice? What shall one of us that struck the foremost man of this world? Act 4, Scene 3. For this, but for supporting robbers, shall we now contaminate our fingers with this base bribes and sell the mighty space of our large honors and so much trash as may be grasped thus? These lines have been taken from William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar from Act 4, Scene 3. The speaker is Brutus and he is speaking to Cassius. Brutus rebuked Cassius for his writing letters to him in defense of Lucius Pella. Brutus Cassiusের উপর রেগে গেছে কারণ কেশিয়াস লুসিয়াস পেল্লার হয়ে চিঠি লিখেছে। Brutus rebuked Cassius for his writing letters to him in defense of Lucius Pella, who had taken bribes from the people at Sardis, and the people are accusing Cassius of corrupt practice for placing the incompetent person in responsible post. Cassius did not like this behavior of Brutus, as he had put aside his request and had punished Lucius Pella for the sake of justice. Cassius এটা পছন্দ করেনি behavior of Brutus, as he had put aside his request, তার রিকোয়েস্ট মানে অ্যাকসেপ্ট করেনি বলে, তার রিকোয়েস্টকে সরিয়ে রেখেছে বলে, হ্যাড পানিশড লুসিয়াস পেল্লা ফর দ্য সেক অফ জাস্টিস। এবং ব্রুটাস যে সেক অফ জাস্টিসের জন্য লুসিয়াস পেল্লাকে পানিশ করেছে সেটা কেশিয়াসের ভালো লাগেনি। কেশিয়াস সাজেস্টেড দ্যাট ইন টাইমস অফ ওয়ার দে শুড নট কনসিডার সাচ ইমমরাল অ্যাক্টিভিটিস উইচ আর অফ মাইনর ইস্যুস। কেশিয়াস বলছে যুদ্ধের সময় তো বোকা বোকা মাইনর ইস্যু নিয়ে অত মাতামাতি করার কিছু নেই। Brutus asks Cassius to remember the IDs of March. Brutus Cassiusকে remember করতে বলছে IDs of March, the day on which they assassinated Caesar. He asked Cassius if Caesar was not killed for the sake of justice. জিজ্ঞেস করছে যে সিজারকে কি তাহলে জাস্টিসের জন্য মারা হয়নি? এভরি মেন হু হ্যাড স্ট্যাবড সিজার হ্যাড ডান দিস ফর দ্য সেক অফ জাস্টিস। সবাই যারা সিজারকে মেরেছিল তারা জাস্টিসের জন্যই মেরেছিল। ওয়াজ ইট পসিবল ফর ওয়ান অফ সাচ পার্সন হু হ্যাড কিল্ড সিজার as he is an enemy of freedom should pollute their hands by accepting bribes for selling responsible posts to the incompetent person? যারা নোবেল সিজারকে মেরেছে তাদের কি উচিত ওই হাতকে পলিউট করা ব্রাইব নিয়ে নিয়ে আর সেলিং responsible posts to incompetent persons? কখন? আর Brutus says that he would prefer to be a dog yelling at moon. ডগ যেমন মুনের দিকে তাকিয়ে ঘাউ ঘাউ করে, তেমনি তার তার সেটাও সে করতে রাজি আছে। দেন বি সাচ আ ওয়ার্থলেস রোমান, একটা ওয়ার্থলেস রোমানও আছে। দিস ওয়ার্ডস অফ ব্রুটাস শোজ হিজ আইডিয়ালিজম অ্যান্ড নোবেলিটি।